Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm Tony, and this is a place where we talk about all things strange and unexpected in our reality. Today, we're going to do a movie or episode review, and I've got one of our returning voices, Ron Mason, with us today, who's going to help us talk about these really cool movies and shows that we've run across that we would like to share with you. Hey, Ron, how are you doing, man? How's it going?
Oh, it's going fantastic over here in California. It's been cold.
Cold.
Yeah, but life is good. Work. I got the easiest job in the world, at least in my
Yeah,
lifetime. So I'm enjoying life. Christmas was good. New Year's was good. Healthy. So I can't complain.
that's awesome. Family doing well, everything like that.
Yes. Same for you.
Yes, very good. We're having a good time. I just had a new grandson born recently, so I'm excited about that.
Congratulations.
And that's what life's all about.
It is.
So we're talking now in January, and there's some crazy weather going on out there in California right now as we're talking, and over the last couple of days, lots of firestorms and windiness. Has any of that started to come up north towards your area?
No. Well, I was actually. I went to Fresno today, and you could kind of see a haze. I didn't smell
Mm,
the smoke, but I mean those poor people.
yeah.
Wow, was it? There's been already at least 3 deaths, and just the devastation. James Woods, I heard, was seen just crying. He was just,
Wow.
whole house had burned down, and he's just one of many. Malibu's on fire. I mean, you're talking wealthy homes. An insurance company cutting off fire insurance apparently too. So
Ugh. Lots of prayers to those people, for sure.
absolutely,
Hopefully
absolutely,
they are blessed, saved, protected, and families especially, because it's so tough.
yeah.
You know, that's the first thing you think of is, hey, I got to get my family out of here, save them, protect them, keep them out of this. So,
Oh yeah, California. I mean, Florida, everywhere. I mean, Midwest. We have our
yeah,
different systems. We have our different problems. With weather and natural disasters, and it's all unfortunate.
yeah, it is. Well, this will probably air closer to March, but we've been thinking about everybody out there, and hopefully all goes well.
Yeah.
So, everybody out there, we are going to talk about what we ran across, Ron and I, is a pretty interesting series that you can find right on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, it's free for you. And it's an 8-part or 8-episode series called The Alien Disclosure Files. And today we're going to talk about episode number 1, which is called Alien Energy. Now, one of the things that Ron and I thought was interesting is, and really a cool thing, because it allows you to fit these in shorter periods of time if you have a few minutes. These episodes are like 23 minutes long. Have you ever seen a docuseries that's like that? 23 minutes long per episode.
Not that was this interesting. I mean,
Right.
I watched them all, and and they're all. I mean, the time flies. I mean, like it's over already. I mean, because there's so much
Yeah,
information they throw at you. Uh,
they do.
yeah, it's hard to absorb it all. You got to watch it 2 or 3 times. But
Well, and I think as we get talking through this, people will recognize that it moves very quickly, and there's a lot of information that they present. So we're never going to be able to do it justice, but we do want to give everybody just a highlight of some things. And I thought what was interesting at the very beginning of this episode, there was a comment or a quote by Arthur C. Clarke, and it said, 2 possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we're not. And both are equally terrifying. I remember hearing that. I thought, that is true.
it depends how you look at it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what people think out there. So, like, there's probably people out there maybe that don't think too much about this, but with this vast universe, with so much space and more and more science is recognizing that there are worlds without numbers out there. And, you know, it would be a crazy waste of space if there was nothing else out there. And so I personally believe there's a lot out there. And who's to say God can't create things all over the place, right? So I think it's interesting.
I mean, he gave us whatever information he felt that we needed to know. To go back to that C.S. Lewis phrase, I would rather be alone if they're like Independence Day aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
right. That's the scary part.
Yeah. I'd rather just be alone. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, you know, we on this planet have struggled, right, to be good and cordial to one another. So how much worse would it be to have somebody come here that's so much more advanced and intelligent than us to then come here and bully us? That would be awful. So
yeah, that wouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, and we'll talk about it in another episode, but something that President Reagan said one time, right? He was, I think it was at the UN, and he said, something along the lines of, what would it take to bring mankind together? Would it take something from outside of us, a threat from outside of this planet? Very true.
I remember that. I'm old enough to remember when he said that.
Right. Amazing. So, are we alone? Man's biggest question throughout time. That's what the film says. I think there are a couple other questions that man has asked throughout time, like, where did I come from? And where am I going? Those are pretty important questions. But surely, when you look at space and you're sitting there and looking up at the sky like man has done forever, you got to wonder, are we alone out there? And so it's interesting. I think the film does a good job getting us into that feel of, are we alone and what happens through time. Go ahead.
What would be a more important answer to a question than to you? Are we alone? Or is there a God?
Clearly, is there a God is the most important thing.
Because he really didn't address that particular question. He said the most important question in his mind. In
his mind.
Yes, right. And I think that if there really is a God, would trump that, right?
Sure.
Of course, I believe that. And if anybody's seen anything I've been on your show with, knows where I stand on that. So yes, I just want to ask you, because I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why I mentioned that I think there were other questions out there first, probably before this one that he mentioned. But you're right. Yeah, that's an important one that man has searched to know and get closer
meaning
to the Creator.
Yeah.
Right. So recently, though, it's interesting because for a very long time in history, there's been a lot of, hey, I saw something, and the government saying, no, you didn't. But recently, they're acknowledging something.
Yeah.
And I think that's powerful.
Yes.
Because it's not so much, is there something going on? Now the question is, what's going on, right?
Right.
So
it went from swamp gas and Venus to a hallucination, possible hallucination or mass hallucination, to these things being undeniable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's comforting as well, because to me anyway, because I think a lot of times I think it's worse to be lied to than to figure out and try to accept what's going on.
Right.
It allows the conversation to go to the next level, which is, okay, now let's figure out what's going on, right? Are we seeing really something that's a projection? Are we seeing something that's alien? Are we seeing something that's demonic? What are we seeing?
Yeah.
And it allows us to get to the next point of the conversation and the research.
What if we're being lied to now?
Right.
What if this is some kind of, I mean, I mean, can you trust anything that you right now with, I mean, with the technology and the artificial intelligence technology, I mean, what you're seeing on video, on TV, can you trust any of that? I mean, you can't even tell if a video is really real anymore. I mean, you have to
No.
literally see something with your own eyes, and then you got to try to interpret what it is you're even looking at. Is it military
Right.
craft? Is it like some people are speculating, like all these orbs? I've seen a lot of these orbs in New Jersey, you know, all these things coming out in Jersey, and they're all over the world actually. I think
Yeah.
Denmark has it's like Afghanistan, over Russia, over China. They look like drones to me, and I think most people understand that they are drones. I think they're our drones. Those particular drones
Yeah.
are ours. I'm not sure why what's going on with them. And the orbs might be another form of a drone. I don't know. I
Could be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we who knows? And the military's not going to really tell us. I mean, I don't trust them to tell us the truth. I think when
No.
they're trying to tell us the truth, they're not telling us the truth.
Right. You can't even tell that when they're trying to tell what they're trying to tell. It's
No,
crazy.
no, I don't
Yeah.
trust. I don't trust a thing that they say. They're just finding another way to spread mis and disinformation. You know, a
Yeah.
psyop or whatever you want to call it. You know, on the American people. I think they'll twist it whatever benefits them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it reminds me in this film where maybe they got this idea from, which is in 1938, the broadcast of War of the Worlds,
Mm.
and the reaction of the population of the audience when this hit the radio. So for those of you out there, I think most people should be aware of this, but if you're not, take a look at it. 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast, and people freaked out. They thought it was real because
Hmm.
it was a radio broadcast, and people were afraid for a period of time. And this film does a good job kind of introducing us to, or reminding us about that. And I think it opens the door to what you're saying, which is, I think somewhere along the line they said people are gullible here. We can use this.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
came into that broadcast after, because when they initially broadcasted, they broadcasted it as a retelling of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And
Yeah.
when people tuned in late,
Uh
we're being attacked by Martians. You know,
Yeah.
and man,
Really crazy.
yeah.
So if you'll remember in the film, they start off talking about that, and they talk about just how the media, film, and stuff started to kind of get put people in a place where they can be more open to this. There's been sightings for hundreds, thousands of years of something, but here they are in the 1930s and the late 1930s. Shows like Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, those things started to introduce the concept of other people from outside of the earth and other civilizations. And so I almost wonder, when people start seeing things in the sky, if it really starts to, how much of it they're seeing, how much they are putting into that experience and saying that must be this or that must be that.
Yeah.
So I think, what did they say also? 1940s, there were some other shows that started to show different aliens and things like that. They do mention the DC comic Superman, who's my favorite superhero. I love
Mine,
Superman.
mine too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was what, 1940s in there. 1950s, flying saucers like the man from Planet X and the day the Earth stood still.
Mm,
That was a good one.
I remember that one.
Yeah. So they started to kind of prime people's mind, I think. I wonder, do you think it was because they already knew there was something in the skies? Or do we think that was the natural outcropping of imagination, and now people start seeing things and it just feeds it? What do you think? And the film doesn't go into it too much, but I'm just curious what you think.
You talking about these old movies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how people started to respond to sightings in the 50s and stuff.
Well, there was always those few people. Back then they used to make you think you were crazy. Obviously, most people probably didn't say a word if they did see something or afraid to. Hollywood. I don't know if it's been a slow conditioning program or it's just fanciful, what ifs kind of scenarios, or just creative, movie producers and directors and writers coming up with something they know that would just tickle the fancy of a certain crowd out there and terrify a lot of other ones.
Who knows?
So I don't know about Hollywood. I mean, I know some people think that Hollywood kind of has an inside kind of like little, they know something that we don't. Some people think that, right? And
Yeah.
so they're being
Yeah.
fed a little bit of information, and they make these movies to kind of feed, to see where people are going to react or if it's popular. And I think UFOs have always been popular, as far as the
Yeah.
movies. I've always loved them. So I don't know what is there to that, as far as there's anything to that.
Right. Yeah.
Hard to say. It really is.
It is. It is. I do know in the film, and you'll remember that they start talking about when things really started to heat up, and that was around the nuclear testing, nuclear bombs, and that sort of thing. And it seemed like this is when they came, like not for the first time, but at a higher pace. Like, hey, what are these humans doing? They're dabbling in something way beyond what they're capable to understand can impact things.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about that? What do they do? What's their purpose in doing that? What if they are aliens, and that's up for debate. I mean, people really first they want to go there, just straight
Yeah.
there every time, and there's no doubt in their minds, but they don't.
Right.
But like I said, that's really still up for debate. What's going on?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I don't know. I think like when I think about this that way, I almost feel like they're looking at us, whatever it is, and saying, you are playing out of your lane. You're playing with things you have no business playing with. And I don't know if they're watching to see what we do to ourselves or, or they want to be helpful. I don't really know. But it looks dangerous from the outside because we don't look like we know what we're doing.
What if whatever they are
Mm-hmm.
are pushing us to do this and watch and monitoring our progress? Maybe how do we know that these aren't some very, very nefarious beings? You want to call them extraterrestrials? I won't go there, but
Yeah.
no. But how do we know they don't have our worst intentions, and they're misleading us possibly to. The curious thing to me is their ability to shut down nuclear reactors.
Right. Right.
They can turn that switch on and off at any time. They could even probably launch them if they wanted to,
Right.
and create a worldwide annihilation that would wipe out most of our population within hours.
Right. That's a great point to bring up because I think that should also be considered for sure. Because maybe, they're edging us on. They're kind of pushing us to self-destruction in some way.
I mean, you can't say that's not a possibility.
Right. Right. Well, along with all of those things, the government, and in this film, they talk about projects in the 1950s, Project Sign, Project Grudge, and then Project Blue Book. Most people have heard of Project Blue Book, but I think they do a good job in the film kind of rolling into how each project transitioned into the next. And I don't think a lot of people know that, but that's pretty interesting. And it does show the government's prolonged interest in whatever they're looking at. So crazy. Another thing the film talks about, and I think if people have been in this space for a bit, they probably are aware of this, but I do know people that are surprised when they hear of this, and here's what it is. A lot of times people say, well, if they're real out there, why don't they just land on the White House's lawn? And I think people are not always aware of the 1952 UFOs over Washington, D.C. that
Mm-hmm.
were seen multiple days. And that's crazy because they didn't land on the lawn, but they were just sitting above our Capitol.
Don't they have
Which
a
is
photo? They
crazy.
have a photo of that, right? A still photo of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. And I think the film does a pretty good job going through lots of things and taking us through experiences all the way up until even the Tic Tac case that happened in, I think it was 2004.
Mm.
So crazy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other piece that I thought the film did a good job with is they interviewed some pretty interesting people. There were some people like a Navy pilot, Lieutenant Alex Dietrich.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, she was on there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one of the 4 pilots that actually saw the Tic Tac experience with David Fravor. And she was one of them. And she was on there. So that was pretty good. They also interviewed Avi Loeb, right?
Mm.
Avi Loeb is I think he's an amazing scientist because he's open to more things than what a lot of scientists are. And he's, I think, paving the way for that to say, let the science determine what we're looking at. Let's not put what we're seeing in a box,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of scientists do that.
They sure do, right? That's not science when you do that. It really
No.
isn't. This is what I
It
believe,
isn't.
and I'm going to make it fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Lots of that going on throughout the history. So I'm glad to see somebody like Avi Loeb. They also have Ron James, who's a MUFON media relations. He does he talks a little bit in this film as well. And then some guy named Seth Shosak, who is a SETI astronomer. So I felt like in 23 minutes, my gosh, lots of information, pretty good interviewees. They talk about ATIP, recent government hearings. Yeah, pretty powerful. And I think they go to make the point that, once again, we talked about this earlier. This is real. We need to get past that point. That, is it happening? Yes, it is happening. Now the next step is what? Yeah. Ron, I think you were going to say something. I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean, you were talking about the hearings. And I forget his name, but the one whistleblower that came forward, the tall guy, out of the 3, you had, do you know who I'm talking about? He was on the show, on this particular episode, I believe, where he was,
Was he the pilot?
he was the guy who he said he was in counterintelligence. He was in counterintelligence, I believe. And he was, he's just one of the guys in the hearing. I can't remember his name. I just remembered he struck me as, one of those guys too that he reminded me of the guy that we saw in the one documentary where this guy was drove that one guy crazy, and he was like one of those.
Yeah.
And
The Doty guy.
Yes, Doty, and
Richard Doty, yeah.
I don't want to defame this guy.
Yeah.
I just can't think of his name right now. He did most of the talking actually at the hearings. He was just a very tall guy who was in. Maybe he's a disinformation agent as well. I can't say he's not, but I don't want to defame him. So forgive me if you're not. But we have to consider.
Don't be mad.
Yeah, I don't show up at my door and threaten my life. I got I have a happy life over here. I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah. But I mean, these are thoughts, right? And these are, we put this stuff out there and people can think about these things. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. The hearings are interesting and they're pretty important, I think, in the last couple of years anyway. They do a good job also talking about some pilot sightings and a couple scenarios. I'm having trouble remembering what the scenarios were now, but I remember at the end of watching the episode, I felt like they covered it quickly and well to keep on pace with this film, and they did a pretty good job.
You talking about the airline pilots?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the one guy we said came down vertically and actually disappeared into the ocean. Yeah, and he had we had a couple, and there's still photos of it too, right? Of the actual line, the white line.
Crazy.
Yeah, that was an interesting story. And he said that they said it stopped just above the water, and the water like bubbled or boiled.
Right.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of the Tic Tac scenario too.
Mm.
Something's going on there. So.
Yeah, something to do with either the propulsion or a field around it, you know,
Yeah.
is causing the effect on the environment around it.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's kind of what they're talking about a lot lately, which is in order to be able to do this through gravity, there's got to be something like that surrounding or enveloping the vessel or the UAP to be able to do this, and how it affects the water
Mm.
as it gets down by the water. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Well,
Um,
well, the speeds that they're traveling at, even just, I mean, thousands I mean, what, 10 times faster. I mean, to go from 80,000 feet down to 20,000 feet in 2 seconds or whatever they said, something like that.
yeah,
I mean, obviously there's nothing, there's no physical human being or creature of any kind that we can think that would be able to withstand you would just completely break apart.
yeah.
Uh,
Let alone structures. Like we don't have planes or anything that can actually manage that kind of.
it would disintegrate.
It, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. So one of the things as we get towards the end of this that I thought was interesting is they asked the question in the film, what about the Earth is desirable to whoever's visiting? Is it the energy properties, the raw material, or the water? Like maybe it's the water. I mean, we've got so much water on this planet, and if these things are hovering or spending time around the water,
Mm.
is it something they're using for energy? Or maybe they're underwater and have a presence down there. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they also said that. I mean, they did a lot of speculating on this
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
about this Earth being, well, billions of years old. I'm not going to argue that. I don't believe that, but I'm not going to argue that. But that we had no water, that water is an
Right.
alien element to this Earth.
Right.
I mean, who told you that? How do you know that? Where are you getting this from? I guess it's a hypothesis, and I know
Yeah.
I'm no scientist, but that is a stretch, right?
Well, I mean, and you wonder if they're looking at other bodies out there like the moon and saying, well, if they don't, then at some point we must not have. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, maybe the moon was. I believe everything was created, right? So I believe everything's created whole and in part as is.
Yeah.
Um, that's my belief. Like I
Yep.
said,
Yep.
I expect a lot of people to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I love it actually. I want to talk about it, but
Yeah.
I, to me, I understand that there's going to be certain bodies. We don't have rings. We don't have rings around our planet,
Right.
right? We're not a
Right.
gaseous planet. So, I mean, does that mean that we at one point we had rings?
Right.
Did we switch with them? Did they take our rings and we took their water? I mean, I'm joking here, but
No,
there's
but
just
it's a great point, right? Because what you're saying is what you see out there doesn't mean that we have to have had it here.
right.
This may be a very special place for reasons. So maybe water's always been here and that was the way it was, right? Is what you're kind of saying, I think. So,
I don't see why not. Why that's so hard for somebody to really believe. I don't think that's too much of a stretch.
yeah.
I mean, have those rings always been around Saturn and was it Venus? Right? Is it Venus that they have that?
Yeah.
Um,
No, Saturn and
oh yeah,
I think they
Uranus.
found some around
Uranus,
Uranus.
right? Yeah, Uranus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we have different gaseous planets all throughout all different. I mean, beautifully different.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't want to take. I, I don't think it takes an asteroid or a comet to deliver a payload of water to a planet. I mean, is every single planet in the entire universe dependent on a cosmic collision with a comet to bring water to that
Right.
particular planet?
Right.
I mean, that's what you're saying when you say that. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I think, I mean, it's an interesting
Yeah.
hypothesis, but it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like Darwinism. It's a theory.
Right.
that can't be
And
proven.
a theory is like another religion,
Correct.
depending on what
It's a,
you think you're
what's a
seeing.
belief system?
Right.
People tell me all the time,
Exactly.
evolution is not a religion. Yeah, it is. It is. It's a belief system. A belief
Yeah.
system can be considered a religion, and they believe it so much that they preach it to all our children from the time they can teach it in school.
Yeah.
So that's just a totally different show, but it's a sad reality that they can get away with teaching one theory but not another, right? Or a belief system but
You're
not
right.
another. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Once again, we went through bits and pieces here, and people probably need to check it out. I think it moves so quickly through so much information.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not one of those boring documentaries that you sit there and you can kind of fall asleep. This one was at a good clip,
Oh
moving
yeah.
through information the whole time.
All of them are
So
like that. Yeah.
let's go ahead and kind of rate this then. So as we get here to the end here, what did you enjoy the film?
I enjoyed every single one of them. I want people to watch them all. They're all very, very fat. Like they're all full of. They have energy to the show.
They do.
There is no lag time. It's literally you better pay attention. Don't walk away. If you're going to walk away, pause it because
Right.
because you will miss something.
That's a good point. That's exactly right. And I agree with you. It was a good film. I enjoyed watching it. Visuals were good. Narration, interviewees, pretty good, don't you think?
Even that guy with the deep voice that they kind of pixel his face.
Yeah.
I've never seen him before, but he's got the perfect voice for this.
Perfect.
Yeah. I thought he was Leonard Nimoy Jr. or something, but his name is
Right?
completely different. That looks like Leonard
Very
Nimoy.
distinct, deep voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what were its good points and any bad points in your opinion?
Well, I like the way they take risks with their ideas, with the way they're thinking. I mean, because it takes risk. Like I was arguing about the water, right? That's. I mean, I like that they take the risk and bring these theories there because it's worth thinking about. I disagree with it, but it's worth thinking about. They bring up War of the Worlds. I loved War of the Worlds. I watched that probably 10 times when I was a kid. It was just fascinating to think that we could be invaded by, the monsters looked a lot different back then, but and real primitive in the movies. But it was, I love that, those old black and white alien movies where there's a little hole.
They were fun.
Yeah, there's a hole in the ground, and all of a sudden you see your neighbor coming back as like a zombie, and what happened to Billy? By the way, where's his dog?
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
it was good. It definitely was good. So you would recommend the film to viewers?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a certain type of viewer that you think would enjoy this most? Or is it a pretty good across the scope or spectrum entry film for somebody?
I mean, I think, I think you don't want to bring a lot of biases,
Yeah.
like just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I can't enjoy a show like this. It's
Right.
it's no threat to my way of thinking or my belief system to watch this. As a matter of fact, it gives me fodder to delve deeper into, disproving a lot of this in my mind. Countering, not disproving, but countering.
Yeah.
I can't disprove it, but I can counter it, and I think it's great. I enjoy every minute of it. It gets my brain going. It gets me, okay, that's where they're coming from. That's where they're approaching this. Now, okay, how can I debate that? What can we talk about? What kind of conversation can come of this?
True. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it was a great bit of information and entertainment. I think it's a good episode and series, but let's just talk about this episode that will give some good exposure about this phenomena to people that are maybe new to this whole thing. Because, of course, with the news and different things that are coming up in recent months and years, and I know people that have never thought about UAP at all, but are now going, wait, what? Is this stuff real? So it's a good entry level, and maybe even a little more than that, information for people to get a good, quick little recap of some things that have happened from way back till the Tic Tac events and stuff.
This is going to bring a
So,
lot of people. It's going to interest a lot of people. Like you asked, what crowd? I just
yeah.
think the curious crowd. I think the people looking
Right.
for looking for answers to things.
Yeah.
Because they may have seen something and they were, that doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. And now they're seeing all this exposure coming out, and in the social media. I mean, you can't hide from anything in social media. The quick
Right.
bam, bam, bam. It hits the. I mean, every 5 minutes there seems like a new video is being uploaded.
It does. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and rate it. 0 to 5. 5 being good, 0 being a stinker. Where do you put this one?
At least a 4. I'll give it a solid 4.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to go where I don't normally go. I'm going to go 4.5. And here's why. Short film, 23 minutes, action-packed. I was just impressed with that. I do not remember watching anything that I could fit in real quick, an episode like that literally I walk away with more information than the minutes that I spent to watch it. So 4.5 for me.
It's like watching a great pilot.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it was a good pilot. So I can't wait to see the next episode. Yeah.
Yeah. It is good.
Yeah.
Well, okay then. We did it. We got through episode number 1 and I did a little review. Folks, check it out. Alien Disclosure Files. And the first one, Alien Energy. We liked it. We're suggesting it to check it out. And we're glad you sat with us and listened for a little bit. So, Ron, I'm sure we're going to get together very shortly for other episodes. But for right now, we're just going to say to everybody out there, remember, there's a lot of strange and unexpected in our reality. So to remember to keep your eyes, ears, and minds open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.